For over 40 years, Keanu Reeves has been the quiet soul of Hollywood, a man who turned grief into grace and humility into legend. His name alone inspires affection. His presence softens even the coldest rooms. Yet now, at 61, whispers from those close to him reveal a truth too heavy to ignore. The man who never sought fame, who gave everything to his craft and to others, may finally be ready to step away for good. Behind that calm smile lies exhaustion, the weight of decades spent surviving loss, pain, and heartbreak while pretending to be unbreakable. What pushed him to this point is not simply the story of an actor's retirement, but the end of a journey that began long before Hollywood ever called his name. The early wounds. Keanu Charles Reeves entered the world on September 2, 1964, in Beirut, Lebanon, a city already torn between cultures and instability, almost as if it foreshadowed the life he would live. His father, Samuel Nowlin Reeves, Jr., was a Hawaiian geologist of Chinese, Portuguese, and English descent. His mother, Patricia Taylor, was a young English costume designer who dreamed of art and stability but found neither. When Keanu was only 2, the marriage disintegrated under the weight of Samuel's addiction and erratic behavior. Patricia gathered her infant son and began moving, from Beirut to Sydney, then to New York and eventually to Toronto, searching for a place that felt safe. But there was no safety to be found. Every move meant new schools, new homes, and new strangers. For Keanu and his younger sister Kim, childhood became a series of departures. They learned early that nothing stayed still long enough to be called home. Samuel drifted further into darkness. Arrested on drug charges in the 1970s, he disappeared completely when Keanu was 13. Their final meeting took place in Hawaii under a sky full of stars. Father and son sat in silence before Samuel drove him to the airport. Keanu later said it was as if the earth had swallowed his father whole. The absence left a hole that no fame would ever fill. "We believed our lives would be better if we had our father," he once said quietly, but he never came back. Patricia tried to keep the family together, but her pursuit of stability led to a carousel of husbands. Broadway director Paul Aaron, rock promoter Robert Miller, and salon owner Jack Bond, each of whom appeared briefly and vanished. From those marriages came half-sisters, including Karina Miller, but only Kim remained his true constant. For Keanu, she was the one person who made family real. Together they endured a nomadic life that offered little comfort. School never gave him refuge either. Dyslexia made reading torturous, turning every page into a battlefield. He often fell behind and felt alienated, not for lack of intelligence, but because letters and words simply refused to stay still. Teachers labeled him disruptive, mistaking curiosity for defiance. "I questioned everything too much," he recalled years later. "It always got me in trouble." Yet behind that restlessness was a mind that refused to accept surface answers. Amid the chaos, one place gave him belonging: the ice rink. As a hockey goalkeeper, Keanu earned the nickname The Wall. His focus and reflexes made him a natural, and for a while he believed that sports might save him. He dreamed of playing professionally for the Canadian Olympic team. But when a brutal ankle injury at 15 ended that dream, it felt like another abandonment, another door closed by fate. Still, instead of collapsing, he adapted. Acting became his next escape, not out of ambition, but out of necessity. In pretending to be someone else, he found temporary peace from a reality that had never been kind to him. By 17, Keanu had dropped out of school and decided to chase the uncertain path of performance. He once said that acting felt like home because it allowed him to channel all the chaos and loneliness he could never explain. That wounded boy, shaped by loss and displacement, was unknowingly preparing for the roles that would one day define him: a man who could carry pain with dignity, who could endure heartbreak without bitterness. In those early years, the foundation of Keanu Reeves's quiet strength was built not on privilege or ease, but on survival, the rise and the curse of success. By the early 1980s, Keanu Reeves had left behind a childhood of instability and heartbreak to chase a dream that barely felt real. In 1984, he landed a small television role in a Canadian show called Hanging In. It paid almost nothing, but it gave him something he'd never truly had before, a sense of purpose. When the cameras rolled, he wasn't the lost boy from Toronto anymore. He was someone else entirely. Acting became his way to make sense of the world. A year later, he packed his car, a battered 1969 Volvo nicknamed Dumpy, and drove from Canada to Los Angeles. He had no agent, no plan, and just enough money to buy gas. All he had was belief, and even that was fragile. Hollywood didn't welcome him easily. Casting directors told him his name was too strange, too foreign. "You'll never make it with a name like Keanu," one said. They offered him new ones, Casey Reeves or Chuck Spadina. He tried one briefly but hated it. "It didn't feel like me," he later said. Keeping his real name became his first act of defiance. Slowly, he began to earn respect. His natural authenticity drew people in, even when his skills were still raw. In 1986, River's Edge changed everything. Playing a disillusioned teen surrounded by death and moral decay, Keanu delivered a hauntingly real performance that made critics take notice. They saw in him something Hollywood rarely valued: vulnerability. But the industry didn't know what to do with him. After River's Edge, he was cast in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. The goofy time travel comedy became a global hit, turning him into a pop culture icon overnight. For millions, he was Ted, the spaced-out surfer philosopher. The fame was instant, but for Keanu it was confusing. He feared he would never escape that image. "People thought I was that guy," he said later, even directors. For years, studios offered him only comedic or teenage roles, refusing to see the quiet intensity beneath the surface. In 1991, Point Break changed that. Playing undercover FBI agent Johnny Utah, Keanu channeled his athleticism and emotional depth. The movie's mix of action and spirituality resonated with him. His co-star Patrick Swayze once said, "Keanu wasn't acting, he was searching." And audiences could feel it. He performed most of his own stunts, nearly drowning during surf scenes, and trained with real agents for authenticity. That same year, he appeared in Gus Van Sant's My Own Private Idaho alongside River Phoenix. The film was raw, poetic, and deeply human. The friendship that blossomed between Keanu and River would become one of the most defining relationships of his life. Then came Speed, the movie that made him a full-fledged Hollywood star. As Jack Traven, a police officer trying to save passengers on a runaway bus, Keanu embodied courage and control, qualities the public desperately wanted to believe in. The film grossed over $350 million worldwide, yet when offered $11 million to star in Speed 2, Cruise Control, he turned it down. "I just didn't like the script," he said simply. In an industry built on greed, that decision shocked everyone. He chose integrity over wealth, reputation over comfort. 3 years later, the devil's advocate tested his principles again. He took a major pay cut so Al Pacino could be cast. The movie became a critical and commercial success, earning Keanu praise for his emotional restraint. He was no longer just the action hero. He was an actor capable of exploring morality, loss, and temptation. Then came 1999's The Matrix, and the world changed. The production nearly destroyed him. Months before filming, he underwent spinal surgery due to years of motorcycle injuries. Doctors warned him not to move too much, but Keanu refused to quit. He trained in kung fu, performed fight sequences in pain, and wore a neck brace hidden under his costume. When the film premiered, His stiffness, often mistaken for stoicism, was actually real suffering. The Matrix went on to earn $466 million and redefined visual effects forever. But Keanu's response was typical of him: quiet gratitude, not celebration. He gave millions from his paycheck to the special effects and stunt teams, saying they deserved it more. Fame, money, and recognition never impressed him. Only honesty did. And yet, even as Hollywood began to call him a superstar, Keanu felt more like a stranger than a success. Behind every movie there was the same quiet truth. He wasn't chasing fame. He was trying to fill the silence left by everything he had lost: love, loss, and the breaking point. In 1998, Keanu met actress Jennifer Syme at a party. She was radiant, kind, and shared his quiet temperament. They fell deeply in love, creating a private world far removed from Hollywood. In late 1999, Jennifer gave birth to their daughter, Ava, who was stillborn. The tragedy broke them both. Keanu withdrew into silence, refusing interviews and disappearing from the public eye. He was seen sitting for hours alone on park benches, staring into space. Just as he began to recover, another blow came. On April 2, 2001, Jennifer died in a car crash in Los Angeles. She was 28. Friends said Keanu didn't scream or cry. He simply froze. At her funeral, he carried her coffin with an expression so empty that even photographers lowered their cameras. Those who knew him said part of him died that day. When he finally spoke, years later, he uttered a line that became the philosophy of his life. Grief changes shape, but it never ends. It was not a quote. It was a wound given words. After that, he never remarried, never had children, and kept his private life guarded. His grief became his companion. Every role he took afterward reflected that loss. Neo's isolation in the Matrix, John Wick's pain, Constantine's weariness, each one was a mirror of his soul. Hollywood called him mysterious, but the truth was simpler. He was a man learning to live with ghosts. A life built on compassion. Keanu's response to suffering was not anger, but empathy. In 1991, his sister Kim was diagnosed with leukemia, and for 10 years he stood by her side. He sold his home to pay her medical bills and spent countless nights in hospital rooms, reading to her through pain and exhaustion. When she recovered, he founded a private cancer foundation, without his name attached, to help children's hospitals and cancer research. Later, it was revealed he had donated over $30 million from his Matrix earnings to medical teams and effects crews. "It's not about me," he said. "It's about helping." His generosity became legend. He quietly gave motorcycles to his stunt team, shared profits with costume designers, and insisted on eating with crew members instead of isolating in luxury. On public transport, fans saw him give up his seat to strangers. When stranded travelers once recognized him at an airport, he helped them find rides and shared snacks during the long bus trip that followed. He never wanted recognition. He just believed in decency. But behind the kindness, friends noticed exhaustion. Every tragedy he had turned into compassion also drained him. His body bore scars from years of punishing stunts, and his heart carried the invisible bruises of grief. By his late 50s, Keanu had begun quietly withdrawing, choosing solitude over spotlights. What the world called humility was, perhaps, also self-preservation. The final exhaustion. In 2014, John Wick revived his career and gave him a new identity, the aging assassin seeking redemption. The irony was painful. The role mirrored his real life. Keanu trained for months, practicing jiu-jitsu and gun combat until his hands bled. He did almost all his stunts himself, breaking ribs, dislocating shoulders, and fracturing his knee. By the time John Wick Chapter 4 premiered in 2023, he was 58 years old, still performing scenes that would exhaust men half his age. During a dangerous sequence in Berlin, his kneecap shattered. After surgery, he returned to filming just 3 days later. Fans admired his commitment, unaware that each movement came with real pain. After decades of giving everything to his craft, Keanu began to question how much he had left. "We come into this world with nothing, and we leave with nothing," he said softly during a 2024 interview. "What matters is what we do in between." At the time, most thought he was simply being reflective. Insiders now say it was a farewell. Following John Wick 4, he turned down several major offers. "I've said what I needed to say through my characters," he reportedly told a producer. "Maybe it's time to live quietly." By 2025, he was living almost completely out of the spotlight. No premieres, no interviews, no endorsements. Friends described him as serene but tired. After a lifetime of fighting for others, he was finally choosing peace for himself, a quiet home and a gentle farewell. Today, Keanu Reeves lives in a tranquil home tucked in the Hollywood Hills, far from the chaos that once defined his world. The house, built in the late 1980s, reflects his spirit, minimal, peaceful, open to light. There he spends his days reading, writing, and walking through the garden he tends himself. He shares this quiet life with Alexandra Grant, the artist who became his partner and closest confidant. Their relationship began as collaboration in 2011 and slowly grew into love. They cook, create, and host a few close friends, but mostly they enjoy silence. To those who have visited, the space feels sacred, a retreat where he can finally breathe. Physically, Keanu bears the marks of his long journey. His knees ache, his back stiffens, and his voice carries the weight of endurance. Yet there is peace in his demeanor. He no longer measures life in awards or applause, but in still moments of meaning. He funds hospitals, supports new artists, and travels without entourage. His fortune, worth hundreds of millions, is quietly used to heal, not to flaunt. When fans ask if he'll return to film, he smiles gently and says, "Maybe, if it feels right." For now, he prefers stillness over spotlight. For the millions who grew up watching him bend reality as Neo or fight for love as John Wick, his absence feels like loss. But perhaps this isn't an ending. Perhaps it's the first time Keanu Reeves is finally living for himself, free from cameras, expectations, and pain. The man who spent a lifetime saving others on screen has finally saved his own soul. Keanu Reeves has given the world everything: his art, his heart, and his quiet strength. If this truly is his goodbye, maybe it's the peaceful ending he's always deserved. Do you think Keanu should return for one final role, or is it time for him to rest? Share your thoughts below, and if his story has touched your heart, leave a like and a comment to honor Hollywood's most humble legend.